importance of leaders to kind of look into the realm of what is real today and what is possible or probable tomorrow, which is a little bit about thinking in terms of as a futurist themselves. So can you maybe explain a little bit more about what does looking into the future mean, and what are some of the things that leaders can do to build their ability or to learn how to look and probably see where the future is kind of going towards.
Yeah, and I think that's a really critical thing that leaders should be doing. And unfortunately, most leaders aren't doing enough of that. And the reason for that is not because they don't want to do it, they'd love to do it, but they've got so many things happening that are from an operational basis and looking after day to day that they don't make the time to look up and look out. And yet, the more senior you are, the more of your salary is being paid for you to be thinking about the future. So if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job, right? And people, I want to be compassionate here because I recognize that people have got many more demands on their time and their resources than ever. And they're leaders who spend 80+% of their time in meetings, right? And I'm sure you've come across leaders like that, or they spend all their time going through their inbox. One leader famously said, "My job is deleting emails." Okay? So there's I'm not saying that is easy, but it's essential that you look up and you look out. And especially now, because we live in such a connected world, it means looking at things that are outside your business, outside your industry even, because there are going to be these things that are going to impact us and really have a significant impact on us from completely outside our industry. Yeah, so again, there's some research done by Accenture where they surveyed leaders and they said, where do you think the biggest disruptions are going to come from? And they said, are they going to come from existing competitors within your market, or are they going to come from outside? And are they going to come from existing businesses or new businesses, or are they going to come from within the industry or outside? Now, I think you and I would agree, Mukesh, that there's going to be a whole bunch of disruptors who are going to come from businesses that don't exist now and from outside the industry. And yet most of the leaders surveyed, they said they had very blinkered view. They said our biggest competition is going to come from businesses we already know in our industry. And again, I can understand that because they're looking at market share, they're looking at short-term results, they're looking at stock prices. So they've got this narrow focus. And yet we're going to have much more of that coming from outside. I think the second part of your question is how can you look? How can you do those things? It's easy for me to say you need to do that, but what you're saying is how do you do it, right? Yeah. Okay, so I reckon there are three ways. There are three dimensions if you think about looking wider. And they're wide, deep, and far. So looking wider means getting wider perspectives than just your own. So it might mean talking to people outside or who you normally talk to. There might still be people within your organization, but let's say you're a senior leader and you spend a lot of time talking to other people, other senior leaders in your organization, that's good. But what about talking to more junior people? What about talking to new graduates? What about doing reverse mentoring? So I'm sure you've come across the idea of reverse mentoring, Mukesh. So the traditional mentoring is where the senior person mentors a more junior person. Reverse mentoring means that the more junior person is a mentor. So one of my clients who worked for a law firm before she retired a few years ago, she embraced this idea of reverse mentoring. Every 3 months, she invited somebody more junior to be her mentor. And junior meant one of three things, either literally by age, it could also be more junior within the law firm, or it could be somebody more junior within industry, so within the law, because she wanted to know, like somebody who just graduated, what are universities teaching law students now. She wanted somebody more junior in the firm, know what they may have recruited them from outside. What are other law firms doing? So it's this idea of thinking wide and going broader. The second thing is just absolutely make sure that you are keeping up to date with your own expertise. Because if you went to university or school 20 or 30 years ago, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's all you need to know. Are you keeping up with your professional development to know that you still have the expertise that you need for your role now? And the third part is looking ahead. It's looking forward into the future. What's our industry going to look like in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time? What futurists are you following? What other sources are you using to think about what the future might look like? So if you think about those three areas, am I going wide, am I going deep, and am I going far? There's probably three good indicators for you to consider. Are you doing enough about seeing into the future and doing what you've been paid to do?
So